what you're seeing here in front of you was a monumental amount of work. I'm excited to show you guys the end result, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen before we reach this point right here. Yes, the car is painted, at least somewhat. It's been over 2 weeks since I posted a video, which is like a record for me. I hate that I haven't had anything up, but this video in front of you took a lot of work. I also went on vacation. I've been busy with other projects and other aspects of life, so sorry to keep you guys waiting, but this is a good one. Now, before I can get the engine and transmission, and more importantly, the wiring harness and the interior back in the orange car, well, I gotta paint it, which you guys pointed out a lot. And trust me guys, I was aware this car needed to be painted before I could swap that stuff in, but not everything always lines up perfectly. Sometimes things go a little out of order. But yes, I'm about to paint this car, at least part of it. So let's get that started so I can finally get to actually chassis swapping these cars and have a running and driving 997 turbo. Yours truly is going to be the one painting the car in this episode. But a few things have to happen first. For one, I need to get it out of the woods. I need to get it away from the E30 and in a proper position so I can start cleaning it and preparing it for its paint job. That's good. Yeah, so just kind of like an angle up this way. So. Hang out there. Probably good. Seeing as this car sat outside for years, there's a lot of filth built up that needs to be cleaned before I can even think about prepping it or painting it. The previous owner did clean it before bringing it to me, but it's been a few months and just sitting here pretty much wide open. The elements have taken their toll. The car is full of leaves since basically it's surrounded by trees, and it's also just downright dirty everywhere, and no paint is going to stick to the car if it's super dirty. And getting those leaves out of the interior along with the water is going to be quite the challenge. I got the majority of the loose dirt off, so now it's time to soak it down with the foam cannon, and what I'm going to use here is basically just some purple power, some degreaser, to make sure I have all the cracks and crevices really nice and clean. Let that sit on there for a bit and then pressure wash it off. It should be pretty decently clean afterwards. Let all this sit just for a couple minutes. We'll get to blasting again. I also need to remove what's left of the door sills down there. With a tornado attachment on my pressure washer, it made quick work of all the remaining grease, dirt, and grime, and leaves pretty much. I'm going to have to pick out a couple leaves by hand, and more are going to fall on it between now and when I paint it. That's a problem for another day. Now that the cleaning is done, it's time for the eraser wheel to get rid of the leftover adhesive from the door sills. Now, I'm not sure what door sills I want to put back on here. I'm leaning towards the carbon fiber ones from Renline, like I have in my 996, but let me know your thoughts. And I have the stockish ones from the gray car, which I think actually light up.
A little Goo Gone and a plastic razor blade will take care of the rest of this adhesive. Stuff is never fun to get off, but thankfully I don't have to worry about the paint because I'm going to paint it. Still got to try to get all of this water out. So I unplugged the drain holes there on either side, but they were a little too far tilted, so I got to tilt the car back. I'm pretty good with all that. I'm just going to let this dry for hopefully like a day or so. It'll be dry. I'll come back and maybe do a little wipe down up there because that water is just going to sit, unfortunately. But I'm pretty happy with that result. Now the car's clean and ready for, you guessed it, paint prep, which is the worst. There isn't a ton here that I have to prep for, but still there's a lot of sanding, cleaning, and a little bit of masking off that's about to take place. Now the fun time begins where me and Mr. Scotch-Brite go to town on this car. The engine bay, door jambs, frunk, it's gonna be fun. I'm going to start in the engine bay, but there are a few miscellaneous brackets and hose clamps, etc. that need to be removed in there before I can really start sanding, getting everything ready for base and clear. But with those things removed, me and the Scotch-Brite have a nice long date. Next up was the masking, which there's not a ton to do in this engine bay. As most of you guys know, you can't see most of the things in the engine bay with the engine installed. And also, tinfoil is great for this type of work. You don't have to waste tape, and it's super easy to put on and take back off. A little bit of tape in areas where needed, and it's pretty much good to go back here, primer-wise. That is until I stood up and knocked my tripod, gimbal, and camera over. I'm not taping off all the foam above the engine because I feel like tape would actually ruin that when I go to remove it, and a lot of paint's not going to stick to it, and you're not going to see any of that once the engine is installed. I also thought about removing it, but I feared it would fall apart with me trying to pull it out of there. So my plan is to kind of do this in stages rather than sanding the whole thing down and driving myself absolutely nuts. Figured I'll knock out the entire rear, sand it, clean it, prime it, and then move on to some other parts. Should keep this project a little more interesting for me and for you. I'm just going to be using some self-etching primer. You guys should be happy to know I finally got a mask. There. Now my lungs will be protected. Happy now? One coat done. While the first coat in the engine bay was drying, I moved on to the front trunk And there were some brackets that I needed to remove, and then it was basically a rinse and repeat of what I did in the engine bay. Sand everything down with the Scotch-Brite pad, and then mask, tape, and tinfoil up what needed to be covered. And then in the middle of that, back to the engine bay for the second coat. Now, if it's not clear what's going on here, I am not painting the quarter panels or the roof of this car. I am painting the door jambs, the front trunk, and the engine bay. That way I can start swapping everything over. I am not comfortable enough with my own paint skills to paint important parts, like the quarter panels or roof. Some of you may wonder why even bother with the trunk, because 100% of everything painted up here is covered by plastics, fabric, the fenders, etc. But some orange was sticking through, and I want this thing to be done right. I want this car to look like it came with the color I chose from the factory. I don't want it to look like an afterthought. I want everything painted and everything clear coated. That way it's nice and protected and will last the length of this car. And when I'm done, I believe that this car will look 100% like it came from the factory with the color that I chose. Unfortunately, I didn't realize the last can of primer that I grabbed was black. It's just primer, it's not really a big deal. But the trunk and the engine bay are all pretty much done and ready for base coat, clear coat. Now I have to work on the door jambs, and I have to get those window seals out, which are held in with rivets. Overall, very pleased with how this primer turned out. I know I technically didn't need to primer any of these parts, but it was good practice, and that way I know that the paint's gonna stick. I didn't want to spray base coat on here just to find out there was some kind of contaminant in the paint, and then I'd have to waste all that base coat and start over. But with that being done, it's time to address these door seals, window seals, whatever you'd like to call them. They are riveted in. I don't know why. Porsche. It was a terrible idea. So I need to get the rear glass out and then start drilling. At the last second, I decided to procrastinate and work on the door jambs instead. So these stickers need taped off. They were taped off before whenever they painted the orange, so I had to go a little farther inside to make sure all that orange paint was covered with the new color. I guess that reveals that I'm not painting it orange. How does that happen? Can't say I've ever had that happen with a drill bit before. This is super fun already. I could not maneuver this rear window glass out of this one. The passenger side came out just fine, but this one seemed stuck, and then I found out one of the bolts holding it in the rear was somehow stripped on the inside, so I had to get on the inside with vice grips and then spin it, but eventually I got it out. Freaking finally. That was not a good time. But the door jambs are ready for sanding and primer, and I can't see a thing. That's why I don't wear safety glasses, because they always fog up. Remnants of the rivets removed. Now it's time to get back on my date with Mr. or Mrs. Red Scotch-Brite pad. I sanded off all the shiny bits, blew off the dust, and then it was time for a wipe down with wax and grease remover, and basically after that, we're ready for some primer. And with all that prep work done, it's time for primer. I sprayed multiple coats of primer on all areas of the car that were going to be painted, and then I remembered I needed to paint those little triangle pieces that go in the door jambs. Not sure what they do, maybe a door stopper, so they needed sand, cleaned, and primed as well. I literally got this done in the nick of time. The sun is setting, but tomorrow we paint, base and clear. Overall, very happy with the primer. Everything went on smooth, didn't have any weird bubbles, any areas that didn't stick. It all seemed good to go. RIP to multiple drill bits. You will be missed, but not forgotten. Now it's just time to clean up, wait for this primer to cure overnight, and tomorrow it's the real deal, base and clear. I don't know why I didn't do the rear trunk jam initially. Maybe I thought I would just leave that for the actual painter, but I think it makes more sense now for me to do it. Now, along with that, I gotta blow out all of these leaves. Fall is not the time to be painting. I also need to remove the remnants of the Scotch tape that I had on the rear window, which turned out to be a lot more work than I initially thought it would be. But after that, I got it scuffed up, removed the taillight brackets, cleaned it, and now we're ready for primer. Just as I did before the primer, I had to Scotch-Brite everything again, followed by a wipe down with wax and grease remover, some more removal of leaves, and of course I had to throw in some glass cleaner at the end just to satisfy you guys and make sure that the inside was nice and clean. But boy, fighting these leaves is going to be a challenge. I'm really hoping you guys didn't skip ahead to see what color this car is being painted, and if you didn't, kudos to you. You guys are the real OGs, and I appreciate it. Watch times really help with YouTube, but with all that being said, here is the color, and I absolutely love it.
I like the color.
Clogged in there? Yeah, chalk gray. I love, every time I see this color, like on anything, I love it. Like the Nardo grays or whatever, so I hope I love it on this car. Oh, this should be plenty of paint. So yeah, I'm painting my 997 primer. Shiny primer. Hope you guys like it, and I hope I like it once it's fully painted and I see all of the pieces together. But we won't truly know until the car is complete. But for now, my buddy Tim came over and he's helping me get the car prepped for paint. We got to make sure it's clean. We got to make sure all the leaves are out of there. And then it's time to test out, make sure the paint gun is working correctly, which we had problems with.
There goes nothing. I'm going to keep it light.
Initially, the paint gun was spraying great, as you can see here, but the longer I used it, less and less paint would come out. And it seemed odd, because the air compressor had plenty of air. I wasn't sure what the problem was, so we tried many issues, and the issue at hand, well, it was quite odd, which you'll see a little bit later. But for now, I at least got a very light coat of chalk gray on pretty much everything while we're still diagnosing why this gun isn't spraying correctly. It got to a point at the end where almost no paint was coming out of the gun at all, yet it was full of paint.
Something's not right, we gotta fix it.
Tim helped me clean and mix up some new paint. I was thinking the paint was too thick, so we actually thinned it out a little more, but that didn't fix it either. And then I thought the filter may be clogged in the paint container. Took it out, well, that wasn't it either. But we did eventually figure it out. The breather on top of the paint container on top of the gun was clogged. And I don't know why that affected how much paint came out of the gun itself. Physics, aerodynamics, thermodynamics, I don't know, something like that. But once removing that breather up top, it sprayed like a champ.
Now we're professionals. I can't believe that. That's some bullshit. Just keep your eye on me and tell me if I'm about to dump paint everywhere. That's all it was. That hole was clogged. Now it's spraying like a $1,000 paint gun.
There we go.
Yeah, dog.
And while the gun continued to spray well, it was time for a second coat. I would eventually do 2 coats in the trunk, 3 coats in the bay, and 4 coats in the door jambs.
Oh. Well, that's a wrap.
A wrap on all the base coat indeed. I was very happy with the results. I didn't have any major defects, major bugs, leaves, runs, anything. It was good to go. So time to mix up some clear.
Gonna be any runs, any defects? Nada. Oh no! There's a leaf over there. Oh, shit. At least it's not in the clear. We're playing with fire here. It's great that it's getting dark too, because it just adds one more challenge.
Why would we not paint this when it's like kind of cold and getting dark?
And it surely was getting both cold and dark. This took longer than expected due to all the problems I had with the gun in the beginning. We probably added an hour or more to this total paint time because the thing just wasn't spraying right. But now that we're onto the clear, we're on the home stretch, and that engine bay, that was not easy to paint. Getting into all the cracks and crevices, laying on my back, not fun. The trunk isn't easy either. However, you're not going to see any of the trunk, so I wasn't that concerned with it. My main concern were the door jambs, because I wanted them to look really nice, and I did want most of the engine bay to look nice.
Nice work.
You know you're going to spray and it's going to like land right in the middle.
Oh, tweezers.
Luckily, Tim was here because there were some falling articles that ended up landing in the clear like bugs.
Hold on, don't spray that down there.
Another leaf?
You got.
Nice. I love spraying myself in the face.
Not only just bugs, but leaves. So Tim was on plier duty, and he helped to make sure anything that landed in the clear came back out. And other than that, there were no major hurdles.
Yep.
All things considered, the first coat went pretty smoothly. Now it's time to mix up some more clear and move on to the second coat. Looking back, it probably wasn't my brightest idea to continue wearing the sweatshirt that was covered in dirt from laying on my back spraying the engine bay. But you live and you learn.
I'll just point those there. It's going well. One coat left, I think.
While the last coat dried, I wanted to move the 996 out of the garage. It's on the left.
Oh yeah. Forgot.
Because the 997 has got to go in there. It's too cold outside for this paint to cure overnight. So Tim got his first experience driving the 996, albeit a very, very short drive.
I like the clutch though. Like it's just. It's just normal.
You want to know why? Like one of the reasons?
Because it's a factory clutch. For now.
Aha! Got him! It's getting frickin' cold, not good.
All the coats of clear completed, looking good, no major defects, just like the base. So it's time to try to get the car inside without messing up the fresh paint job, and there's really only one way to move it. That's by grabbing the wheels and tires. Luckily the car is super light because there's no engine or transmission in it, or interior, or really anything other than suspension and a diff.
Forward again.
Should probably do it. Really admire this ice cream paint job. The car is inside, but there's much to do before I show you the end result. First, I gotta do a cleanup because there's just crap and paint and fumes everywhere. And I also need to remove some of these stickers because I don't want to do it after the clear is fully cured, because that could be a catastrophe and I end up peeling the clear coat off, which we don't want. So time to do some very, very tactical tweezer maneuvers. Oof. Look at that.
That was a nice tape line.
No orange sticking through. Oof. Yeah, dog. Aha!
There you go.
Those are some nice stickers. Let me know what you guys think of the color. I know it's going to be a lot of comments of, oh, you should have kept it the stock color, you should have painted it white, you should have gone with a different gray, but I love the chalk and Nardo and those kind of grays. So I hope it looks good when this car is done. I know it looks like primer right now, but it's not. I'm really excited for the end result. Time to start swapping parts over. See you guys in the next video where we actually make some really good progress.